everyone, Phoenix Knight here. Welcome to the channel, and welcome to a new playthrough on the channel. We had a bit of a frustrating episode in Hornet Leader Carrier Operations last week, so now we're back to a more familiar world, but with the debut of a new game. Today we're going to start a new background campaign of Aeon's End, Legacy of Gravehold from Indie Boards and Cards. Now this is going to be a little bit different, because normally I do setup ahead of time. I normally do setup the night before each video. But this time, given that it's a legacy game, I didn't mean to jar the camera there. I didn't want to try to do any kind of setup because I wanted to come in blind so I could experience the narrative in real time. So far, the only thing I've got is the familiarity with Aeon's End. So we're actually going to let the narrative kind of guide us a little bit. So let's start by setting the story so far. The story so far: Gravehold, the last bastion of humanity. The great underground city was thrown into chaos when a mage named Zaxos experimented with forbidden void magic and accidentally drew a powerful nameless called Maelstrom into the city. Even the combined strength of all the mages was not enough to defeat it, and a young prodigy named Desmodia was forced to sacrifice herself with one final attack that brought down not only Maelstrom, but the entire city of Gravehold itself. The remaining mages made their way to the surface, and set to work constructing a new city that would be called New Gravehold. Their leader, a mage called Brahma, had grown wary of the dangerous void magic that had destroyed their home, and began exiling any mage who dabbled with it or who followed Zaxos' teachings. Zahana, a good friend and old mage, comrade of Brahma's, couldn't stand Brahma's strict edicts against magical experimentation. She left the city, traveling south. In her travels, Zahana discovered that the people of Gravehold were not the only ones left in the world, as they had always assumed. The village of Azer was just one of several small communities spread out across the surface of their world. From the Azerians, Zahana learned the art of glyph magic that can be used to influence and control Nameless themselves. She used this magic to try and attack New Gravehold with a Nameless called Necroswarm. She only made it as far as New Gravehold's southern outpost before Necroswarm was defeated, and the news that there was a traitor mage trying to overthrow Brahma spread like wildfire. Her identity, however, was largely unknown. Zahana herself returned to the village of Azer, and was joined by her son Takran, who had put together what had happened and wanted to hear her side of the story. Their group was then approached by Zaxos, who had been living in the void ever since his own disgraceful exile from New Gravehold. He had developed a new way to travel safely through the void without incurring the dangerous, mind-altering effects of its atmosphere, and he asked Zahana and her party to come with him into the void. His hidden goal was to defeat a Nameless which could collect the life essence of mages who died in battle and reconstitute them as monsters. Upon defeating this Nameless, the Fountain of Souls, Zahana and Zaxos parted ways. Zaxos took the previously deceased mages, Desmodia, Arachnos, and Thraxir, who had been partially turned into Nameless by the Fountain of Souls, while Zahana left the void with her son and their friends. They returned to New Gravehold, intent on convincing Brahma to open up her mind to learning about the void. I'm just going to make sure that's not double-sided. Alright, so now let's go into the prologue for Legacy of Gravehold. This is going to be hard to read, so bear with me. I'll be reading this, obviously. The Hall of Elders is nearly empty this time of day, the sun slipping low enough to cast long beams of sunlight across the wooden floors. Brahma sits alone at her desk, finishing reading over a proposal to begin the training of the next generation of mages. Thinking of the young mages makes Brahma think of Desmodia, taken from Gravehold all too soon by her own heroic sacrifice in the battle against Maelstrom. Brahma lets the papers go lax in her grip as she thinks of the horrific events leading up to the fall. She'd considered Zaxos a trusted ally and a close personal friend, but his foolish experimentation with void magic had nearly cost them everything. Brahma has had to bury too many children. She can't let it happen again. It has been more than a month since she learned that there is a traitor mage amongst the Council of Elders. Every member of the council was someone Brahma had trained alongside or mentored personally, and before now she would have said she trusted each with her life. But one of them had turned on their brethren and led Necroswarm to attack the southern outpost. Brahma didn't want to believe it, but she was too old to wallow in hopeful delusion. She trusted Zaxos too, and look where that had gotten her. No more trust. The door to the hall swings open and Brahma rises from her desk in shock as Zahana strolls boldly inside. Brahma can barely make out the faces of her companions where they stand silhouetted dark against the sun. The rest stay at the doorway while Zahana approaches. Brahma retrieves her staff from where it sits leaned against her desk and goes to meet her halfway. Zahana, Brahma begins, her voice betraying nothing. No one has seen you for over a month. Where have you been that was more important than protecting your home? New Gravehold is not my home. Our home was lost decades ago beneath the crumbling earth. Zahana rests a hand casually on one of her dual blades, and Brahma is too wise not to consider it a threat. Are you aware that there is a traitor to New Gravehold? Zahana stiffens at Brahma's words. I am. Are you aware that you went missing just before that traitor mage was spotted? I'm aware of that as well. Brahma leans heavily against her staff. Sometimes her many years feel like too heavy a burden to bear. So you're not going to defend yourself. I didn't come here to defend myself. I came here to explain. Now you sound like Zaxos. Brahma shakes her head, disappointed. Do you think you can justify the lives you took? Zahana glares at Brahma, refusing to back down. I'd rather be with Zaxos than with you. At least he is attempting to change things for the better. You were with Zaxos? Brahma raises her eyebrows. Briefly. Recently. He took me into the void. Zahana sweeps an arm behind her, encompassing the mages standing at the door. He brought all of us. And now I've come here to share what I've learned with you. Brahma, we can't ignore the void, or the power there. It is drawing energy from our world, whether we like it or not. I don't know what the answer to humanity's salvation is, but I do know we're more likely to find it if we're not cutting ourselves off from half the resources of the world. The void is what caused all of this in the first place. Brahma strikes her staff on the ground once, the sound ricocheting through the empty chamber. You meddle with dark forces you do not understand. You're putting everyone around you at risk, people I've sworn to protect. Maybe you can accept the people of Southpost as acceptable losses for progress, but I cannot. What happened at the outpost was a tragedy, Brahma. It wasn't my intention to... If the world ran on good intentions, we would still have Gravehold. Brahma turns away from Zahana, walking back towards her desk. You betrayed me and your fellow mages. You are no longer welcome in New Gravehold. You can't just... Zahana trails off. You can't just exile anyone who dares to disagree with you. What about the Council? The Council already ruled that anyone associated with Zaxos presents a real and present danger to this city and should be removed. Be grateful that I am not yet hunting you down for your transgressions. I refuse to allow a threat to New Gravehold to persist. Brahma turns her head, glancing at Zahana from the corner of her eyes. You can leave of your own volition, or I can summon your fellow mages to have you removed. Zahana's eyes burn with rage. This isn't over, she snaps, before turning around to storm out of the Hall of Elders. Choose to play either the Gravehold or Azer campaign. Then, if you choose Gravehold, open the Gravehold book and begin reading at page 1. If you choose Azer, open the Azer book and begin reading at page 1. Let's start with the Azer campaign. So we'll grab the Azer narrative book and open it up to page 1. Mother, please calm down. Takran rests a hand on Zahana's shoulder as they exit the gates of New Gravehold for what might be the last time in his life. She is shaking, shoulders trembling from the strain of holding in her indignation. I wouldn't mind being exiled, Zahana snaps, pulling her shoulder out from beneath Takran's hand. I wouldn't even begrudge Brahma exiling you and Ku from the only home you've ever known. It isn't her actions that I find unforgivable. It's her intentions. The moment a city has a leader who will not listen, who is not open to debate and change but would rather silence any dissenting opinion, that is when she has been in power for too long. She's putting all of her people at risk for her own selfish, outdated beliefs. But she is the leader the people follow. Takran looks behind him, tilting his head back to take in the towering expanse of New Gravehold's mighty wall. It is an imposing structure, standing out tall from the cleared forest around it. He can just barely see the colored pennants out of the marketplace peeking up over the stone. The people don't know what she stands for. They follow her blindly, unquestioningly. That's quite the high opinion of your people you have there, Kel says, clearly unimpressed. How long have you all been living so deeply entrenched in ignorance? Too long. Zahana reaches the tree line of the forests to the south of New Gravehold and stops. Turning to face the ragged team she has assembled here, her son, Takrin, and Zaxos' own daughter, Ku, as well as the pair of tethers from Azer, Kel and Ilya. This doesn't have to be your fight, Zahana begins, but Ku cuts her off. We were with you in the void, Zahana. We saw the Fountain of Souls taking the aether of our fallen mages and twisting it into something monstrous. We decided together that we'd return to Brahma to try and change her mind. Our world and the world of the Nameless are already entangled. We can't just go back to hiding our heads in the sand and pretending they're not. Besides, Ilya adds, slipping her arm through Kel's and resting against her side, New Gravehold isn't an island. The actions of your city, intentional or not, have been disrupting the natural patterns of Nameless in the forest. Everything has become more dangerous, and it won't stop until we make it stop. What are you all implying? That we should attack New Gravehold? Takrin takes a step back, looking over the group with a vague horror in his eyes. Those are our people. Our friends. Your friends, Kel mutters. I don't want there to be bloodshed. Zahana reaches up instinctively to pull her cloak tighter around her shoulders, but she doesn't have it anymore. Zaxos has it, wherever he is now, wandering through the void. But I'm not naive enough to think this will be peaceful. We can't fight against New Gravehold, Mother. There are only 5 of us. Then let's hope fighting isn't necessary. Zahana pulls her hood up, casting her face into the shadows. Until then, I'm going to gather as much help as I can find. Brahma has made more enemies than just me in her time. And us? You 4 should head back to Azer. We can regroup there and figure out what to do. If it isn't too late already. Ilya begins to ask what Zahana means by that, but before she can, Zahana is already racing off, ducking into the tree line and vanishing from sight. Ilya sighs deeply before returning to the others. Back to Azer, I suppose? Keep your eyes peeled for Nameless, Takrin cautions as he begins leading the group south. This area is dangerous to travel through, no matter how many times you've done it. Maybe for you, Kel snorts. Us Azerians have spent generations learning how to safely traverse the forest. The small band of mages begin their travel, with Kel and Ilya leading them confidently through the woods to the south of New Gravehold. As they go, they carve magical glyphs into the trees to subtly influence any Nameless who might be out there in a different direction. See? As long as you don't make a huge nuisance of yourself by cutting down half the forest and building a big city in the middle of it, you can travel easily enough. Kel holds up a dangling vine and waits as the other 3 duck beneath it. Sure, but that's easy to say when Azer has a third of the population of New Gravehold, Takrin counters amicably. We need space for farms, or else we wouldn't be able to feed everyone. Well, have you considered not... Kel cuts off Ilya as Ilya grabs her arm and tugs her sharply backward. The previously open path in front of them is suddenly cracked down the center by a mess of black veins pulsing in midair. The mages stare in horror as a void portal coils into existence in front of their very eyes. This is exactly what I meant, Kel snaps. Your cursed city is disrupting everything. Not our city anymore, Q says. Not this time. Ilya grabs Kel's hand and their matching tattoos begin to glow with a powerful light. The 4 mages stare forward at the dark, swirling portal in front of them as a humanoid figure steps out from it. The man, or creature, whatever it is, seems to take in a long, deep breath, although it's impossible to see through the heavy draping fabrics obscuring its entire form. When it speaks, the voice is undeniably female, and she sounds as though she is smiling. You smell like the void. The cloaked figure lifts a hefty tome in front of her, easing it open to a page somewhere near the center. And yet, you do not comprehend its truth. And what, you do? Kel snaps. Who even are you? I am simply here to help, of course. To help you discover the limits of your true abilities. Through the void portal swirling behind her, creatures begin to pour like water. Their bodies is composed of a thick and viscous liquid that starts to slowly form into individual shapes. My creatures, the woman coos, as if the purple monstrosities swirling all around her were her own children. I think it is time for them, like you, to reach their full potential. Open Deck 4. These are your mages for this game. Open Deck AZ-1A. This is your starting supply. Open deck AZ-1B. These are the starter cards and turn order cards for your mages, along with player aids. Then open envelope 1 and deck BS. Do not shuffle deck BS. Set aside the top 9 cards of that deck. Those cards are the unnamed deck. The remaining cards are the Nemesis deck. If you're playing with 1, 2, or 3 players, discard the top 7, 5, 3 cards of the Nemesis deck. Defend the forest clearing from the Bishop of Scrolls. If you win your game versus Bishop of Scrolls, read section 74. If you lose, read section 77. Okay, so what all do we want out of here? We need envelope 4, deck AZ1, AZ1A, AZ deck 1B. Here we are. Open envelope 1 and deck BS. I'm just grabbing everything that I need here. BS. Okay. That's everything we need, so I'm going to shut the camera off so I can open that, and hopefully we'll have everything ready to go. Now the table's starting to look a lot more like a game of Aeon's End. So, let's start off by making a stop at the supply. So we've got our 3 gems up here, where first we have a Nebula Shard for 3 ether. You can either gain 2, or gain 1 for each spell you cast during your casting phase this turn. Then we have an Irradiated Jewel for 4, and it's got 2 marks on it. These are new to Aeon's End Legacy of Gravehold. I wonder if it says which color's which. Probably wouldn't. The question is... My thought is yellow would be red would be overheat, which is what this is. Okay, yeah. So it'll say on the card. You gain 2 ether, and you may reveal the top card of the turn order deck to gain an additional 1 ether. If you reveal a player card, overheat this card. And if this card is fully overheated, destroy it, and Gravehold suffers 3 damage. Which reminds me, I need the dials for... Okay, in this case it's probably Azer that we're going with, but we'll start setting life around, and I'll set the dial for the nameless up there. Then our last gem is a Leviathan Shell for 5 ether. Gain 2 ether. If you have played 2 or more other gems or relics that cost 3 or more ether this turn, boost this, which is what the yellow circles are for. And when it says to boost or overheat, it'll mean mark off one of the circles permanently. Gain an additional 1 ether for each boost mark on this card. Then we have our 2 relics. Shifter's Cloak for 3. Focus any player's breach. If that breach is opened this way, boost this. If this card is fully boosted, cast any player's prepped spell. It deals an additional 1 damage. And we've got 2 boost circles up in the corner. Then we've got a Lightbringer Staff for 6 ether. The players collectively destroy up to 2 cards in their hands, or silence up to 2 minions, or destroy this to remove a fire token from your location on the map. Fire tokens are also new to Aeon's End Legacy, and what those do is page 20. There we go. Fire tokens represent the destruction being done to the village where we're fighting. 2 effects. Players immediately lose the game if there are 10 or more fire tokens on our location on the map. And after you're finished fighting a nemesis, you'll receive some rewards from the village where you're fighting, and the more fire tokens there are, the fewer rewards that you'll get. Alright, that's the map. I've got the map out here. I'm not going to show that for fear of showing more spoilers than I'm already getting into. Alright. So that's what the fire tokens are. Then our 4 spells. Our Aether Ripple for 3. Cast to deal 2 damage. Each ally gains an Ether token, which an Ether token is also new, so that's something you'll be able to spend on other turns, but it will of course be lost on your next turn. I'm just going to grab the set of breaches out here before we continue going through. Continue going through the market. 3, 3. I think there's 4, 4, but I'm going to assume that there is until I flip the mats for my Magi over so I can see for sure. Next up, we have Douse for 4. Cast to deal 3 damage, and you may destroy this. If you do, remove a fire token from your location on the map. Next is Backfire for 5 ether. Cast to deal 4 damage. You may lose 1 charge to return this to your hand. And finally, you can pull that back card off. We have a Paradigm Flux for 7. Cast to remove up to 2 shield tokens from minions, deal 5 damage. So we can deal 5 damage, looks like to any target. So that's our starting supply. Now let's go meet our nemesis, the Bishop of Scrolls. Our first nemesis that we're facing is the Bishop of Scrolls. Starts off with 50 health, which I've set his dial to. Unleash, draw a card from the unnamed deck and place it into play. We're not playing with the increased difficulty. And there are all of the additional rules there. I'm not going to go through every single one of them, but you can see all of that if you want to pause the campaign, pause the video here to go through everything. You can pause the video here to read through all of that. But we do have additional setup that I am going to deal with. Place the unnamed deck face down next to this mat, which is right here. Place an unnamed into play and resolve its immediately effect. Place another unnamed play into play and resolve its immediately effect. And in a 1, 2, or 3 player game, which we're playing with 2, place a third unnamed into play and resolve its immediately effect. So we get 3 of these right off the bat. First up we get Minion Unnamed. Oh, fantastic. Immediately choose a 5-letter name and write it here. Open deck E and read card L2-E-02. Okay, so I need to go find that deck as well. So deck E. Where is deck E hiding on me? W-I-T-M-R-F-B. Here we go, deck E. Probably the evolved deck, I'd be willing to bet. So what 5-letter name are we going to choose here? Let's go with... Kira. With a weird spelling. Then open deck E and read card L2-E2. The more I'm digging into this game, the more I think this one's probably going to move to Sunday content. Just because of all the narrative text that we have. So L2- Wait. Open deck E and read card... Oh, here we go. Metamorphosis event. All right, write the name you chose for card L2-BS41. Wait, what? And read L2-E-02. Okay. Write the name you chose for card L2-BS-41. Oh, that's the card we put. Okay, on L2-E-03. Right? Yes. Right, the name you chose for this card on... Okay. If that name starts with a vowel, which it does not, cross out the second persistent effect on the card. This is one thing I've always shied away from with these legacy games. I'm not going to spoil what that one is. I've always shied away from the idea of permanently changing your cards. So that goes right into play there. Then place that card under the Bishop of Scrolls and banish L2-BS-41, okay? So that card goes there, which means the effect that we kept on it, on Kira, is it's got 9 health now, which is going to be fun. So Persistent Unleash. This minion gains a shield token. Oh, delightful. Alright, so that card is banished, which means I'll put that somewhere out of the way here. Then we put another Nameless into play, so this time we find... Immediately, if there's no name below, choose a 6-letter name and write it here. Persistent. Write the next letter and the name you chose for this card on the name... What? Wait a minute. Did I do that right? Yeah, write the name you... Okay, write the name. So if there's no name below, choose a 6-letter name and write it here. Okay, so this one we're going to go with what's the name I want for this one? Let's go with Genova for this one. And then the Persistent here, was that the Persistent effect on? Resolve its Persistent. Wait. Resolve its immediately, okay. So the Persistent effect on this one is write the next name in the... Write the next letter and the name you chose for this card on the name line. If the name is complete, read card L2-E-04. So we're going to do... I'm actually going to do this. So I'm going to move the Nameless over here and put the Nemesis deck over here. And then since we're playing with 3, we have to draw 1 more. So now we find another minion. 3 health. If there's no name below, choose a 5-letter name and write it here. Persistent. Write the next letter and the name you chose for this card on the name line. If the name's complete, read card L2-E-06. Okay, let's go with... I really want to start this one with a vowel. Let's go Ignis. There's the name, and we'll put that there. Okay, so with that, let's put the dial down here. Okay, I think that works. So now, after all the hullabaloo of setting up our Nameless, let's go meet our actual Magi. I'll get that out of the way. And our first mage tonight is Ilya, Force of Aether. She's going to be our player 1 in the turn order deck. 10 health to start with, as always. 5 charges to activate her special ability, which is Surge of Power. Let me zoom in on that just a touch. There we are. Reveal the top 4 cards of your deck. Place any number of spells revealed this way into your hand. You may prep spells to closed breaches this turn. You may prep up to 2 spells to each of your breaches this turn. The only thing you need to bear in mind is when you prepare to closed breaches, you have to cast them the next turn. So there's that you'll also need to keep an eye on. That will do it for Ilya. Now let's go meet the partner that we've chosen. Our player 2 today is going to be Ku, also with 10 health. She was the daughter of Zaxos, I think, from the narrative. I was roughly paying attention. Her special ability is Feed the Corruption, activating during her main phase. Any ally draws 2 cards, and any player destroys up to 2 cards in their hand or discard pile. 1 starts open, 2 starts to the left, or 2 starts to the right, as does 3. and 4 starts to the bottom. Looking at our hand. We also have 2 tokens that we need to worry about. So she starts off with a builder token, which lets her gain 1 ether, and the destroyer lets her gain 1 ether and the charge. And we have cards in the deck. I kind of glanced at the deck as I was setting up. We have cards in the deck that will let us resolve each of those tokens. So with that, I think we're at last ready to move back up top to get ready to start this game. If you've seen Aeon's End played on the channel, you'll know how the turn order deck is built. We've got 2 player 1 cards, 2 player 2s, and the Nemesis. We'll give this a shuffle before the start of each round, and then as the cards come up, we'll go through that turn. Again, player 1 is Ilya, player 2 is Ku. So we'll give this a cut. And our first card out of the turn order deck is player 2, so let's drop down to Ku. First up would be the casting phase, but since we don't have anything prepped, we don't have to worry about any kind of casting. So we'll start by prepping a Spark to her 1 breach, then we'll play the Oblivion load to let her flip her builder token to gain let her gain another ether, and then that flips over, I believe, yep. So, and then with 3 crystals in her hand, that'll give her a total of 4 to buy with. So I think here we're going to grab a Douse? Or are we going to start focusing breaches? Let's grab a... Yeah, let's grab a Douse. Which means we can move all of that to the discard pile. Then we'll draw back up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. And then next card from the turn order deck we'll find player 1. So let's move over to Ilya. We'll go ahead and prep a Shared Heart to Ilya's space. Cast, deal 1 damage. If you're Ilya, deal 1 additional damage. We won't worry about the cast, or cast, deal 1 damage. If you're Kel, gain a life. So we'll obviously be using the if you're Ilya mode. Then we've got 4 ether to buy with, which I think will be... do we just run the turn back? I don't think we do, actually. I think we go ahead and pick up an Irradiated Jewel, which once again will let us reveal the top card of the turn order deck to gain an additional 1. But I don't think I'm going to do that. Oh, that's only when we play it. Never mind. So we're just going to worry about building up her buying power. Then we'll draw her new hand. Okay. Wait, is this her right card to start with? Let me just double check. Let me make sure. Okay, yeah, never mind. I was panicking for a second, but we're fine. Got all that straight, so now we'll bring the... We'll go grab another card from the turn order deck, and we'll find... Player 2, so we're back over to Ku. Alright, during the casting phase, I will cast the Spark, and I'll throw it at... who do I want to throw it at? We've already got 3 minions in play, to say nothing of our Bishop of Scrolls. I think I'm going to point it at Kira, because the shield tokens are going to start becoming a huge problem. And if we can knock that minion down... When an unname is placed into play, don't resolve its persistent, okay? Just checking all of that out. So then we'll start off with a Corrupted Vein to resolve the Destroyer token, then flip it over, which will give her an ether and a charge. She needs 4 to activate her special ability. We'll prep a Spark to her 1 breach. And then we actually have a total of 4 to buy with. So I think with 4, we're just going to focus her... We're going to focus her 4 breach. And we'll flip this over, make it her new draw pile. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Then we go back to the turn order deck to find the Nemesis. So let's move up to the Bishop of Scrolls. Alright, so resolving our minions from left to right. Kira is going to gain a shield token, which is going to make it harder to hit that one. Then these two are going to get their first letters on the name line. Alright, then we draw a card from the Nemesis deck, so we'll draw. Impending Immolation. To discard, spend 6 power, or spend 6 ether. Power 2, Unleash. Gravehold suffers 3 damage. Add a fire token to your location on the map. So we need 2 power tokens for that. These are the power tokens. Right now we are in the... Did it say where we are? Defend the... Okay, the forest clearing. So yeah, we're fine there. Now that we've got that straight, let's go back to the turn order deck and we'll find... Player 1, so let's drop back down to Ilya. Before we start Ilya's turn, Kira also had an Unleash, so we should have placed a new Nameless into play. We find... Or a new Unnamed into play, so we find... A 4-letter name with 3 health. If there's no name below it, choose a 4-letter name and write it below there. Let's go with... Let's see, what do we want? Let's go with... Joke. Okay, so that's our picked name for that one. Now looking at Ilya, casting phase will start off with a Shared Heart. We'll blast... I feel like I want to hit the Genova minion for 2 damage, essentially. Because if that's going to be a 6-letter name, that could be nasty. Or I could also hit the Joke minion, since that's going to flip faster. I think I'm going to hit the Joke minion, actually, the one we just put out. Alright, then we're going to prep 2 sparks to each of our open breaches. Then we've got 3 ether to buy with, which I think will be a Nebula Shard. So we'll bring that to our discard pile. Stack it like so. And we'll draw a new hand. 3, 4, 5. Got a lot of ether coming for Ilya. And then just to remove any doubt of suspense, we will find that this is a Nemesis turn. So let's move up to the burden of the Bishop of Scrolls. Kira gets another shield token. That 1 damage is looking like it was a waste. And then we then we unleash. So here we find a 5-letter name with 1 shield token on it. And then persistent is another write the next letter in the name. If it's completed, read a card in the evolution deck. So the name we'll pick for that is Mocap. So it almost feels like if you remember Yu-Gi-Oh! From the Battle City arc, it's almost like the Destiny board that Bakura played in the first round of the Battle City finals. I'm hoping these aren't... I have a feeling these are going to be similarly dangerous, but filling in letters, and then this power token comes off. And then our next card from the Nemesis deck. Dire Proclamation. Power 2. Gravehold suffers 3 damage. If there are 2 or less unnamed in play, unleash twice. Otherwise, resolve the persistent effects of 2 unnamed in play twice. Oh, fantastic. Alright, so power 2. Oop. We'll grab that. Alright, that was uneventful. What we need is some surprise AoE here, but I don't think we're going to find any of that. But we are going to move back up top to see how the board state's changed. Not much has changed right now, where we've got sparks all around here. Ilya's got sparks prepared to her 1-2 breaches. Ku's got one to her 1 breach, and both of her tokens have been, of course, flipped over. And we've got the Bishop of Scrolls with a whole mess of unnamed in play. We've got a total of 5 nameless in play. Kira's already getting shield tokens and turning into a problem. Then we've got 2 that. Then we've got 4 more in play. 1 just came out to start its name. Then Impending Immolation is going to go off unless we get Ilya's turn first out of the turn order deck. And then Dire Proclamation is going to probably give us 2 more letters on 2 of our names. So we need the turn order deck once again. We'll give this a shuffle. So basically I want to see Ilya go before... I want to see Ilya go before the Bishop of Scrolls if possible. But let's see what the card here has to say. Player 1, that works out, so let's drop down to Ilya. Spark from the 1 breach will go take out Joke, which will move him to the unnamed discard pile. Shift everything over. Then we'll use the other spark to start working on Ignis, taking him down by 1. Then we've got 6 ether to buy with. Let's see, the Irradiated Jewel. So we gain another 2, which brings us up to 6, and then I can reveal the top card of the turn order deck to gain an additional 1, which I don't think I'm going to do because 6 is exactly what I need to stop this Impending Immolation. Because adding another token seems like a really bad... Adding a fire token in addition to putting another unnamed on the board seems like a really bad idea. So I'm going to stack it like that. And we'll draw a fresh grip of 5, okay. And then our next card from the turn order deck is the Nemesis. So let's go up to the Bishop of Scrolls. Kira gains another shield token, another letter for the other 3. Okay, why are you starting to die on me? Not the time for that. And then that ticks down. That's our power card. So our next card from the Nemesis deck. Fevered Scribe. Minion, 6 health. Immediately unleash. This minion suffers damage equal to the number of players in the game. So it's going to suffer 2 damage, but we're going to get another unnamed card. And then a persistent. Any player suffers 1 damage. Resolve the persistent effects of an unnamed in play twice. Oh, this is fun. Okay, so we suffered 2 damage and we unleash. So we put another unnamed into play, we find. A 5-letter name with 3 HP and 1 shield token. Joy, joy. So the... another 5-letter name. Let's go with Blaze for this one. Alright, that will go there. Okay, that was from the Fevered Scribe. Okay. So that's it for that turn, Nemesis turn. Let's see what we're doing here. We find another Nemesis token, another Nemesis turn. So good thing we are most of the way up top. Actually, let's see if I can zoom in just a touch. Kira gains another shield. That gets an O. I, another O, and B. I kind of skipped over it a little bit, but this power goes... But this Dire Proclamation is going to go off. Hey, look at that, 2 points. Gravehold's going to suffer 3 damage, going down to 27. Come on, there we go. Other way. 27 health. If there are 2 or less unnamed in play, we have 5 in play right now. Resolve the persistent effects of 2 of them twice. Oh boy. Well, I think it's the 2 newest ones. KA and LA. And that goes away. The Fevered Scribe will suffer another 2 damage. But we get another unnamed. This one is another 5-letter with... We get a shield token out for the Blaze one. We got another 1 health, 1 shield, 3 health, 5-letter. I'm running out of 5-letter names. Natuo, I guess. That's supposed to be a U. My writing's pretty bad. That's from the Unleash on the Fevered Scribe. We may have to take him out, because we're already having 6 nameless in play. 2 of them are going to be flipping. I think 2 of them are going to be evolving next turn. So our next card... Unleash to put another 1 in play. Any player suffers 2 damage and discards a card in hand. If the card costs 2 or less, add a fire token to your location on the map. So Unleash puts another unnamed into play, and we find a 3 health, 4-letter one. Let's go... So this one's going to be... Mull. And then any player suffers 2 damage and discards a card in hand. Do we have anything above 2 health, above 2 ether in hand? We do have a Nebula Shard from Ilya's hand. And a Douse, but I want to use that to attack if I can, to prepare to attack if I can. Especially since Ku hasn't gone yet this round. I think we're going to discard... As much as I don't like it, I think we're going to discard the Nebula Shard so we can keep from adding a fire token to the map. Even though we're looking at a very disastrous board right now. So our next card from the turn order deck is a player 1. So that means Ku will be... Why am I discarding that there? Ku will be going twice this round, but we need to drop down to Ilya. Alright, so... Hold on, did I do that right? Yeah, I guess I did. Okay. So Ilya also had to suffer 2 damage from discarding the Nebula Shard. I'll prepare a Shared Heart to her 2 Breach. And I've got 3 Ether to buy with. The Entangled Tourmaline doesn't really matter because we're gaining 1 Ether to place a card from my hand into Kel or Ilya's hand. If I do, they place a card from their hand into my hand. So it's basically like a swap from the looks of it. 3 ether to buy with. I think we need an Aether Ripple at this point. So we'll grab that, move it all over. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, and then just to remove any suspense from the turn order deck, we have 2 player 2 cards. Let's move down to Ku. I want to try to stop Ignis from flipping, so I'm going to point the Spark at Ignis to deal 1 damage. We're probably not going to be able to stop all of these from flipping. They will resolve the Oblivion Load, which will give me 1 ether plus another 1 equal to the Nemesis tier, which right now is 1, so that's 2. 3 more for 5, and I'll prep a Douse to my 1 Breach. Ay, ay, ay. I think we're just going to focus... I think we're just going to focus breaches. So we're going to focus her 2 and her 3 breaches. Then we'll move all of this to the discard pile, and we'll fall right into her second turn. 3, 4, 5. Okay. That flips over. We'll start off with a Douse to hit the Genova Nameless. We're not going to remove we're not going to destroy this to remove a fire token from the map because we don't have one. We move all of that direction. Then we're going to play Corrupted Vein to resolve the Destroyer token. This will give me another 1 ether, then flip it over. Then I'll prep a Spark to her 1 breach, and I've got 4 to spend, which I will use to grab. I'll actually use that to open her 2 breach outright. I want to be able to start casting more spells. Then all of that will move over. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, then we'll move back up top to look at how the game state's changed. I actually misread the Metamorphosis event on the Kira minion. That one should actually be under the Bishop of Scrolls. So I'm going to go ahead and lose all these shield tokens. I was looking at that thing, I'm like, that thing is going to be a wall to get through. I was looking at that like, you have got to be kidding me. So that card goes under the Bishop of Scrolls, which means everything else is going to move like so. So now I've got that figured out. We finally managed to open Ku's 2 breach. Ilya's got a Shared Heart prep to her 2 breach, and Ku's got a Spark on her 1. As for the Bishop of Scrolls, we finally put the Kira minion under the Bishop of Scrolls. Ignis is about ready to flip. Mocap's getting close. Very close. The Fevered Scribe is about to flip. And I should have... Okay, I should have resolved the Persistent Effect in play, but I'm not going to go back and rewind that now. And actually, a lot of these are pretty close to flipping over. I don't know, as I'm playing this, it feels like it's very imbalanced for 2 minions. It feels like you almost need 4 for this. I mean, it's supposed to balance out with the player deck, but I don't know on this one. So we'll give this a shuffle. I mean, it's Aeon's End, so I'm trying to at least give it the benefit of that doubt, but I really don't know with this one. First card up is player 1, so let's drop down to Ilya. Shared Heart is going to put Paid to the Fevered Scribe, so we'll take him out. Okay, that'll move there, there, and there. Now coming into Ilya's hand, we'll prep a Spark to the 1. We'll prep Sparks to 1 and 2. Then we've got 4 to buy with, and potentially 1 more to, if I want to try to reveal the top card of the turn order deck, and hope I hit a Nemesis card, but I'm not going to, given that we're looking at we have a 2 in 5 chance of flipping over a Nemesis card, so I'm just going to take 4, which will go toward focusing her 4 breach. And we'll move all of that over to the discard pile. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, we got some decent stuff coming here, so let's see what's next from the turn order deck we'll find. Player 2, so let's move down to Ku. We'll use the Spark to take out the Ignis Unnamed. So we can try to cut down some of the carnage on the board, even though I've got at least 2 of these ready to flip. Let's see, then we're going to resolve the Oblivion load, which will give me another Ether. We'll prep a spark to 1, and I've got a total of 4 to buy with, which actually will be to focus her 4 breach. So we'll move that to the discard pile. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. We'll see what's coming out of the turn order deck. We'll find player 1. So back over to Ilya we go. We're probably going to use shields, probably use sparks to ping shields off. So I'm going to use the spark from the 1 breach to ping off of Naduo's shield. And this spark to go after Mull. Mostly because I want to try to stop some of these from flipping. We'll prep an Ether Ripple to her 2 breach. Let's see, we'll gain 2 from the shard either way. 3, 4, 5. Let's go with the backfire. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. And we'll find the next card in the turn order deck. We'll find player 2. So the Nemesis is going to be going twice this round, which means looks like at least one of our friends is looks like one of our nameless friends is flipping over. So let's move down to Ku. We'll use the spark to continue going after Mull because we can at least probably stop that one from flipping over. We'll play a actually, we're going to start off with a Destroyer token, which will give Ku a charge and an Ether. Then I'll play out 3 crystals, which I will use to open her 4 breach for a +1 damage on cast, and then I'll prep a Douse to it. And we'll draw up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, and then just to remove suspense, we'll see we've got 2 Nemesis cards here, so let's move up to the Bishop of Scrolls. Alright, so we're going to start off with resolving each persistent effect. So this card, so the mocap card is full, which means we read card L2-E10. Here we are. All right. Write the name you chose for the card L2BS37 on card L2E11. So 37 was... Oh, come on. Why are you doing this to me? Okay, if that name contains EL... If that name contains the letters E, L, N, R, S, or T, cross out the first persistent effect on the card, otherwise cross out the second. So that one goes away. Then place that card under the Bishop of Scrolls Nemesis mat and banish card 37. So that one goes away as well. And then the new one gets placed under the Bishop of Scrolls, so now we have 2 under there. That becomes Z, N, and M. And then our next card from the Nemesis deck is Coal Whelp. 2 armor, 3 health, on persistent Unleash. Add a fire token to your location on the map. We'll get the 2 armor tokens for that. Oop. And then we'll fall into the second Nemesis turn. So Blaze is all handled. We probably should have been trying to attack the boss a lot more, but we're reading L2-E12. Wanted to try to keep some of these under control, but Okay. Write the name, yada, yada, yada. On card, what is that? This is E13. If that name contains 5 unique letters, which it does, Blaze, write 3 in the blank and the persistent. Yowza! So he's going to hit us for 3 damage on any persistent and 10 in the life section of the card. Oh, this is fun. Place that card under the Bishop of Scrolls and banish. And banish the old one. Oh, fantastic. This looks like fun. A U, and we put another nameless into play, so we find one armor, 3 health. If there's no 5-letter name, no name below, choose a 5-letter name and write it here, and then the persistent is just write the next letter. What about house, I guess. And I'll go get a fire token for the forest clearing. There's our fire token going on the forest clearing. Okay. Then we still need to draw a card from the Nemesis deck. Oh, wait a minute. There are no cards when an unnamed would need to be drawn. Okay. Yeah, so here we find Unleash. Any player suffers 2 damage and resolve the persistent effect of an unnamed in play twice. Let's see, so Unleash, when there's no unnamed... If there are no cards in the unnamed deck or discard pile... Oop, wrong place to write that. Okay, hang on. So that house shouldn't have been there yet. Alright, the H is there now, though. T... L... Then any player suffers 2 damage. I will have Ku suffer that. And then the persistent will resolve twice. Is OU. Resolve the okay, wait a minute. Wait. Let me go through this again. So when the unnamed deck and an unnamed would be drawn, there are no cards in the unnamed deck or discard pile. So there are still unnamed in the discard pile, which means we put another one. We shuffle this and put one of these back into play. So we draw the Ignis one, which is going to be flipping over very shortly. With that, that's the end of the turn. With that, let's move back up top to look at the game state. I'm definitely spending way too much effort on trying to keep the unnamed at bay. So we can see that Ku has her 4 breach open and a douse prepped to it. Ilya's working on her 4 breach. She's got an Aether Ripple prepped to her 2 breach right now. And then we see the Bishop of Scrolls has 3 minions underneath him. Naduo's getting ready to go in a couple turns. Mull's flipping next turn. The Coal Whelp is going to cause us a lot of problems. House is not too far from flipping, and Ignis is flipping on the next turn as well. So we need the turn order deck. And here we'll find Player 1, let's move down to Ilya. Alright, we're going to point the Ether Ripple at the Bishop of Scrolls. We need to start working on him desperately. But I think we just spent too much time trying to keep the Nameless at bay. In hindsight, so he's down to 48. We'll prep a Shared Heart to a 2 breach. And we've got 5 Ether to buy with. I'm not going to use the Irradiated Jewel once again. Let's just go for another back... yeah, let's go for... Actually, better idea. We're going to pick up a Charge. And then an Ether Ripple. Move that to the discard pile. I'm mostly getting ready for when that Backfire comes out. Which it's going to on our next turn. But our next card from the turn order deck is player 2, so let's move over to Ku. Alright, first things first, the Douse will point at... we gotta point it at the boss for 4. To bring him down to 44. Because we're not gonna stop these Nameless from turning over, ultimately. I think it's right now it's just a matter of keeping them somewhat under control. So we'll start off with the Oblivion Load, which will resolve the Builder, giving me another 2 Ether. I'll prep a Spark to 4, and that'll give me 5 to work with. So I will have her grab a Backfire as well. And we'll move all of that to the discard pile. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Then for the turn order, we'll find player 1. Here we go again. Let's go back over to Ilya. We'll use Shared Heart first of all to hit Maul down to 0, and then since we're Ilya, we'll hit the Coal Whelp to ping one of the shield tokens off. Then coming to the hand. Oh, wrong discard pile. That should be up at the Nameless discard pile. We'll gain 2 from the Nebulous Shard. 3, which we'll use to focus the 3 breach. Then we'll prep a Backfire to it. And Sparks to the 1 and 2. We'll move that over to the discard pile. 2, 3. 4, 5. Okay, so we know Ilya's out for the round. Let's see what we've got here. We find player 2. So once again, the Nemesis is getting to go twice. And some more of these are going to start popping off. So let's move over to Ku. Since we probably aren't going to be able to stop any more Nameless from flipping over, we're going to use the Spark to hit the Bishop of Scrolls for 2 to bring him down to 42. Then Corrupted Vein will give me the Destroyer token, which will give me an Ether and a Charge. It'll give me 1. I'll prep another Spark to a 4. Get my 3rd Charge. And then I've got 4 to buy with, which will probably be another Douse. And I'll move all of that to the discard pile. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, we got some firepower coming, but we also see that we've got 2 Nemesis turns, so let's move up to the Bishop of Scrolls. Alright, first turn for the Nemesis. We start with letters. Unleash pulls another one out of the out of the deck we find. The Genova one's back, fantastic. We put another fire token on the forest clearing on the map, so we're up to 2 there. We need to be careful of that. 10 and we lose. Let's see, S on House, S on Ignis, and Genova just came out. So Ignis gets L2-EO6. Right? What? Oh, no, we need E6. Okay, never mind, we're fine. I was panicking for a second here again. E6. Okay. Right, the name you chose for card 39 on E7. If the name contains any of the following letters, Q, X, Y, or Z, which it does not, we'll write any player. Then that card goes under the bishop, and we banish 39. Yes. Alright, then we still need a Nemesis card. So we find Devil's Pact. As long as there are at least 2 options remaining on this card, cross out the option you chose after resolving this card. Gravehold suffers 5 damage, or any player suffers 5 damage, or the players discard the 3 most expensive prepped spells, or unleash twice. The players collectively lose 3 charges. I think we're going to have Ilya suffer 5 damage. As long as there are at least 2 options remaining on this card, yes. So we cross out any player suffers 5 damage. Okay, so that one's done. Then for the Nemesis' second turn. Oh, yep, Naduo. We unleash again, which brings back the Joke, E, and V. So we have 2 that we're flipping over. So Naduo goes off with E14. Here we are. Right, write the name, yada, yada, yada. Write the number of consonants in the name in the shield section, minimum 1. Consonants is 2. Then place that card under the bishop and banish the old one. Alright, then this one takes E18. Right. Write the name you chose, yada, yada, yada. If that name contains any of the letters in the word unnamed, it contains the E, so we cross out the first persistent effect. Oh, this is going to be fun. And place that under the bishop and banish the old one. Okay. V came out. We wrote all of those. And then the card from the Nemesis deck. Otherling, 10 HP. When this is discarded, banish this. Persistent, unleash. Any player suffers 1 damage. Fantastic. So if there are no cards in the deck or discard pile, when an unnamed would need to be drawn. Oh, fantastic. This is all kinds of fun. So, right. That gets banished. Okay. Next, let's move back up top to look at the board, the state of the board. We have a bit of a problem on our hands. So Ilya's been working slowly on her 3 breach. She's got sparks prepared to 1 and 2, and a backfire to her 3. Ku's got a spark prepared to her 4. But we can see we've got a mess with the Bishop of Scrolls. We've got 3 unnamed getting ready to go. We've got 2 unnamed getting ready to go off. 1 ready to come out of the discard pile. And I think when no unnamed cards in play in the discard pile and in the deck, players lose. So, yeah, once they start flipping over, then we're going to have a bigger problem on our hands. Right, and the Coal Whelp still is going to be causing us problems as well, so Now we need the turn order deck. Oop. Alright, first up out of the turn order deck we'll find player 2, so let's move down to Ku. We'll spark the Bishop of Scrolls for 2, bringing him down to 40. Then I think right now it's just all about racing at this point. So I'll prep a Backfire to 4, Douse to 2. Oblivion Load will give me the Builder token for another 1 Ether. And 2 more for a total of 3, which will be... Oh, we should have had Ether tokens too. I'm not going to worry about that now. I'll just use that to focus for 3 Breach. 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. And then from the turn order deck we'll find player 1. So let's move over to Ilya. Alright, we'll start with the Spark to clear the shield off the Coal Whelp. Then we'll use the Backfire to finish it off, losing a charge to pull Backfire back to our hand. Then we'll use the other Spark to work on Genova. We're going to try to take the Genova unnamed down. Let's see. Then we're going to get 3 from that, which will prep a... I'll focus the Breach. I'll focus the 3 Breach. I'll prep a Backfire and 2 Ether Ripples. And we're probably going to start pointing at the boss with this damage. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. And then here we'll find player 2. So we'll move over to Ku, and we'll be over there with a new battery. I'll start off by hitting the boss with the Backfire for 5. I'll lose a charge to return Backfire to my hand. Come on. 35, which I'll actually hit the boss with our Douse as well to bring him down to 32. Then for prepping, we'll prep the Backfire back to 4, Douse to 2, Spark to 1. Corrupted Bane will give me the Destroyer token for another Ether. And then 2 more for a total of 3, which will be a Nebula Shard. And then Ku is out of cards in the turn order deck. 3, 4, 5. Okay, let's find out what we've got here. We've got the Nemesis. So let's move up to the Bishop of Scrolls. A-O. Mull comes back and we'll have Ku suffer the damage. So the Genova Unnamed is complete. Let's see, that needs card 2, E4. Alright, write the number of vowels you chose for the card as the name. Okay. Right. Okay, write the number of vowels in that name in the blank. Right, wait. Number of vowels in that name in the blank and persistence. So, EOA. So, 3. Subtract that number. Subtract the number you wrote in that blank from 14. Write that number in the life section of the card, so it's got 11 life. And then that goes under the Bishop of Scrolls. And the old card gets banished. Oh, great. Right, and then Mull came back out, so we don't write a name under letter in his name. So we find to discard 4 cards in hand, power 1, unleash twice, Gravehold suffers 3 damage, and banish this. Oh joy. Right, so basically that means if Ilya comes up again, she's going to have to discard 4 cards in hand. Do we have... We can probably deal with that, but I think we have a 50-50 chance of just ending the game right here, because if there are ever no... Oh no, we will actually, we would unleash twice, which would... If there are no cards in the unnamed deck or discard pile when one need to be drawn, resolve the persistent of each unnamed in play. Okay. So we need to find out if the discard pile, or if the... We need to find out what turn's going off here. We find... Player 1. I think we can buy ourselves some time here. So let's drop down to Ilya. We're definitely buying ourselves some time here. So Backfire will go take out Mull. And we don't have a charge to lose for that. Then the 2 Ether Ripples will both take out Joke. And I'll actually remember to give Ku her 2 Ether tokens, which she can use on her turn. And then discard 4 cards in hand to prevent unleashing twice. Yeah, I don't think we have a choice in that matter. I'll discard my 4 sources of Ether to get rid of Collapsing Comet, which actually gets banished. Then I'll prep Shared Heart to our 2 Breach. I'll go ahead and draw back up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, and then just to remove our suspense, we'll see that we have a Nemesis card. So let's move back up to the Bishop of Scrolls. All right, the Otherling requires us to unleash, which brings back either the Mull or Joke. We'll bring back this one. It'll bring back Joke, so it'll give us a little bit of time. And we'll have Ku suffer the damage. And then the card from the Nemesis deck. Gravehold suffers 4 damage. So Gravehold suffers 4 damage going down to 23. If there are 2 or more unnamed in play, resolve the persistent effects of 2 unnamed in play twice. Otherwise, unleash twice. Which brings Mull back out, and when they're... just looking at this... During the Nemesis main phase. Okay. Oh, and... Right, unleash twice. So that puts that into play, and then we resolve each persistent when there are no Nemesis... When there are no cards left in the named deck. So... K, and it looks like L, so we do get Mull, which gives us L2, E16. Alright, write the name of the player in the game who is next alphabetically after that name, so that would be immediately in the same... Wait. After that name in the blank on the immediately and the same name in the blank in persistent. Wait, hold on. Write the name of the player in the game whose name is next alphabetically after that name in the immediately. So in this case that would be Ku. And the same name in the blank on the persistent. So basically Ku gets domed? Just it's domed by this one? Okay, oh right. Immediately in the same name in the blank on the... So Ku reads E36. Okay. Hunted down event. The creature bares its newly formed fangs and turns its murderous gaze upon you. Set this card next to your playmat. If the corresponding minion is discarded during your turn... Oh, that's when it comes up. Never mind. I'm an idiot. Alright, so... Okay, so ignore all of that. That goes under the mat as well. Okay, well. Right. Okay, so that gets banished. And then we move back up top. So let's move back up top to look at the game state. I highly doubt we're doing 32 health or 32 damage. There are ever no unnamed cards in play, no cards in the unnamed discard pile, and no cards in the unnamed deck. Players lose. I highly doubt we're doing 32 damage before we fill in that last name on joke. Looking up at the Bishop of Scrolls, we see we are not in a good way at all. So yeah, we're probably just about to lose this game. The only question is, how soon is it going to happen? We could kill the otherling now, and we might have to. But let's see what comes up out of the turn order deck. Player 2, so let's go down to Ku. Okay, so we definitely need to kill... We probably need to kill the otherling here. Or do we potentially just get away with... Actually, we can't even kill the otherling now. So I think we do is we douse to take out Joke, put it back in the Nemesis, in the unnamed discard pile. Then we'll spark the otherling for 1 and backfire for 5, discarding a charge token to bring it back to the hand. We'll prep backfire back to 4. Spark to 2. The Oblivion Load will give me the Builder token, which will give me 1 plus 2 for the Nemesis tier for a total of 3. 4, 5, 6. Which I'll use to grab another backfire. Actually, I've got... Hold on. Hold up. I forgot I've actually got 2 ether tokens here, so I might not want that. Okay, so I've got 3 from that, 3 from the builder token, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I think we'll take another douse and 2 charges so I can keep bouncing backfire back to my hand. That's what we'll do. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, and then next from the turn order deck we find the Nemesis. So let's move up to the Bishop of Scrolls. Joke is back again thanks to the otherling. Ku will suffer 1 damage from the otherling as well. And then the next card from the turn order deck. Pale Reckoner. 4 shields, 8 health. Immediately, this minion loses a shield token for each player in the game. Persistent, any player suffers 2 damage, and add a fire token to your location on the map. So 2 shield tokens there. And then next up on the turn order deck we find Nemesis again. So I think the game is just over. We'll resolve Joke, which will flip him over. We'd have Ku suffer another damage, but I don't think that's going to matter. So Ku would go down to 4. Actually, she'd go down to 2 because she'd eat the Pale Reckoner as well. We'd put another fire token up, which would bring us to 3. Joke brings out L2, E8. Alright, if the name you wrote on the card starts with any letter, with a letter that is contained in any player's initials, write a 2, wait, that name starts with a letter that is contained in any player's initials, write a 2 in the blank in the persistent, otherwise write a 3, and place this under the scroll, and if there are ever no unnamed cards in play, which that one will be banished. There are no cards in play, no cards in the discard pile, and no cards in the deck. The players lose. Right. Once there are 5 to 7 cards, at the end of the game, once there are 5 to 7 cards under this mat, wait, if there are 8 or more cards, which I think there's 9, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, yep. All right, we're going to randomly banish until there are 7 remaining. So we're going to banish 2. All right, so we're going to banish these 2. So it's our Joke and House. Let's see, place all of the cards under this mat into envelope 15 and reseal the envelope. 17, 16, 15. Right, that goes in there. We reseal the envelope. Alright, that's all done. So now we have to move back up top to read section 77. Alright, section 77. The masked woman snaps her book shut suddenly, and the bang ricochets through the forest clearing. All at once, the creatures freeze in place, their fangs inches from sinking into the throats of the exhausted and defeated mages. There now. I think that's enough, don't you? The mages can do nothing but watch in confusion as the woman begins to reel her creations back in towards her, with nothing but a few careful words and incantations. I appreciate your cooperation, the woman says as her creatures wind in between her legs like affectionate cats. Ilya can hear the smile in her voice, even though her face is obscured by her mask. But all I needed was to properly name my creations. Though powerful already, this level is not nearly enough to accomplish our greater goals. When we meet again, perhaps Zahana will finally see the futility of her petty crusade, and together, we will see the world unified. Wait, Takran steps forward. What crusade? Is my mother planning something? Oh, little Takran. The masked woman shakes her head. The war is coming whether you want it or not. You cannot pretend it away. If you want to save the world, you need to take action. Do what must be done, even when you feel like the villain in your own story. With that, she snaps her fingers and leaps back into the void portal, with her menagerie of monsters following in her wake. Before the mages can react, the rift narrows to a single point and then winks out of existence. Record the results, which I've done already. Read section 67. What was that? Cal stares into the thin air where moments ago a void portal had sliced open the fabric of reality. Probably another mage exiled by Brahma, Takran reasons. Just like Zaxos or Arachnos turned mad and attacked people. Did your mom send that monster? She would never, Takran answers quickly, though he can't help but look away, unable to maintain eye contact. That's not important, Ilya snaps, her usual cheerful demeanor stripped away as she paces with barely contained agitation. She made it sound like something big was coming. What if New Gravehold is already planning an attack? Brahma wouldn't. Takran tries to defend the leader of the city he'd devoted his life to, but when he remembers the scathing cruelty he'd seen as their leader banished his mother, without even letting her explain herself, he finds it hard to dismiss the potential. Ever since the fall, his mother told him, Brahma had become stricter and stricter in her precautions to protect the city. Takran had always thought it was worth the sacrifices, but New Gravehold shouldn't have to be protected from its own people. If we don't even know what Zahana is planning, we can't assume what Brahma will do, Coot reasons. We need to talk to her. My mother. I need her to explain. Coot reaches out and takes Takran's hand with her own human one, entangling her fingers in a quiet attempt to comfort. We don't have time to go hunting through the forest for her. She told us to meet her at Azer, so we'll see her once we get there and make sure everything is all right. Before we go, we should see what we can scavenge from the surrounding area. There might be something useful. Kel glances around at the ravaged forest scarred from the battle. That is, if there's anything left. We'll go through all the blue text. You can pause it there to read it. I'm just going to go ahead and do everything off camera. Then we'll come back with the next section ready to go, which is section 93. As you can see, I've actually started to clean up because there's a lot of narrative to go through. We'll probably go through that. It'll probably be Thursday by the time this video goes up, so we'll go through that later tonight. But that will do it for this playthrough of Aeon's End Legacy, as I mentioned, or Legacy of Gravehold. As I mentioned, tonight we'll continue with the narrative on Legacy of Gravehold. Then Sunday we'll continue the fall campaign in Arkham Horror, the card game, with the second scenario, Return to the Last King. And then Wednesday next week we'll have the next round and then we'll have some quarterfinal action in the Greatest Boxer Tournament in Title Bout 2. Thank you for watching the video. Please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Be sure to turn on notifications so you get my content. Be well, stay safe, take care of yourselves and your loved ones, and I'll be back with more videos in the future. Until then, take care everyone.